It's going to be an expanded brew sampling, and new this year, we're going to have a cornhole tournament to round out the fun. Registrations are open for restaurants, food trucks, vendor booths. Secure your spot today. We're going to take the summer off, yes, sadly, from our business breakfast. So the next one is going to be September 8th. Join us for an engaging presentation with safety management consultant Alexis Flink from MEMIC. She will be addressing the issues of substance abuse in the workplace with regard to impairment and detection. The breakfast is going to be held at 7:15 to 9 right here, and register today at www.midmainechamber.com. Also visit the Chamber for additional information to register for any of these events. Our speaker today is founder and lead account strategist at Fluent IMC, Marnie Grumbach. She is going to present on navigating digital advertising options that will benefit your business. Time for questions and answers will be allotted at the conclusion of the presentation. When you are asking questions of our speaker, please wait until the microphone comes around to you so your question will be captured on video. Okay. Marnie Grumbach specializes in professional services in B2B marketing, communications, and public relations. She founded Fluent IMC in 2012 to help clients create and implement effective integrated marketing and communications strategies. A problem solver by nature, Marnie loves both the art and science of integrated marketing. She's also an experienced copywriter. Marnie is a member of the Maine Public Relations Council Board of Directors. She's received an MBA from Hudson University and a BA in Communications from Elizabethtown College. She's a native of Central Maine, and she lives and works in Greater Portland. Please join me in a big welcome for Marnie Grumpack.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I have to say, this is my first live presentation in I think like 2.5 years. I've been doing a lot of Zoom presentations, so Joy assured me that you're the fun chamber, that you'll make it easy, right? Let's make sure this clicker works before we, let's see. Do I have to point it? There we go. Okay, so yeah, I'm Marnie Grumbach. My agency is Fluent IMC. We are based in Westbrook. We do integrated marketing communications, and I am a native of Central Maine, although I'm from, has anyone heard of Atkinson, Maine? Oh, wow, all right. So I grew up in Atkinson, Maine, and made my way to Pennsylvania for college and back to Portland area about 20-ish years ago, and started my career at an ad agency in Portland, and I've been in that space ever since, and started my agency about 10 years ago. And so we, if you haven't met us or heard of us, we're based in Westbrook. We have an office in the Dana Warp Mill, but we work with clients really near and far, regardless of location. And we do a lot of work on strategy and planning, what we call fractional marketing support, where we really step in and fill in the gaps for you, for your in-house marketing team, or if you don't have any marketing expertise in-house, we provide that expertise for a fraction of time. And we do a lot of public relations. And most recently, I would say over the last few years, the media buying and digital advertising side of our business has really grown. And that's what I'm here to talk about today, is digital advertising. So, why am I having so much trouble with this? There we go. So Joy reached out to me, I want to say it was last fall, after reading an article that was published by Maine Biz. I'm going the wrong way with these. There we go. Maine Biz, and I'm sure Maine Biz would love it if you visited their website and found the article. If you look for it, it's a how-to piece on how to plan and launch a digital ad campaign. And really this presentation today is gonna walk you through what I shared in that article in more detail. And basically, as an agency and as marketers, and how many marketers do we have in the room here today? All right, so if I get stumped, other people will step in and help me out. We get a lot of questions about how advertising is placed. How does this all work? You know, when I was preparing this presentation, I took some screen grabs of the websites that I visit a lot. And you can't open your laptop or look at your phone without seeing digital ads in some form or another. So, the day that I was preparing this, we have an ad from Eaton Peabody, a well-respected law firm. It's really everywhere. It's around us all the time. It's not going away. So we have to find a way to navigate this. So today I want to talk through some of the things that are the most confusing. A lot of the terminology in the digital advertising space can be very confusing. I want to go through some of the terms, walk you through some different approaches and channels for serving digital ads to your audience, discuss digital ad campaigns, the difference between a lead generation campaign and a brand awareness campaign, and provide some tips and some checklists for developing a simple, cost-effective campaign. So you should have on your table a printout. It's not of the entire slide deck, it's really of the checklist and then a glossary of terms. You don't have to follow along with it right now, but some of the stuff I'm going to talk about is maybe something you'd like to look through later, and I set up the checklist so that you can follow them later if it's helpful. So I found this stat. If any of you are following marketing and inbound marketing, you might know about HubSpot. It's marketing automation software. I have a couple of clients that use it extensively, but I found this stat that 68% of marketers said that paid advertising is very important or extremely important to their overall marketing strategy. And I would guess that is actually higher than that. How many of you are already running some form of digital ads for your business? All right, so almost everyone. So there are lots of different ways to approach this, and I like to call it the Wild West of marketing and advertising. There are definitely best practices, but everyone has a slightly different approach, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. So there, Google AdWords, there's Facebook, social media advertising. So what I want to do today is go through some of the different categories of ad platforms that we can tap into to run digital ads, and then really talk through, how to map out a campaign. So the first thing is, in its very simplest form, is to have a strategy. Ask yourself internally, why? Why are we even talking about doing this? A lot of times clients come to us because they really want to have greater brand visibility, and they're often seeing their competitors in it. They're seeing an ad that their competitor ran and wondering, oh, why are they doing that? How did they get that ad placed? I at least need to be there because my competitor's there. So sometimes it's just simply because there's competition in this space, and you want to have your brand there as well. But other reasons are you ready to increase your brand visibility alongside competition? Do you need greater exposure as you expand into a new geographic region or a new industry sector? Or are you launching a new product, service, or event and need to generate traffic to a landing page? So those are some of the things you should definitely work through internally. This would be your strategy phase in its absolute simplest form, is to have an understanding of why are we doing this. And then the second part is really understanding your audience. Who are you trying to reach with your advertising? There are ways to segment your audience, but you really want to think about their demographics, their geographic location, their online behaviors, and the channels that they are using most often to consume content. So pinpointing your target audience, that will really inform the ad platforms that you would start with to run your digital advertising. So if you're selling tickets or products, you might want to start with social media advertising, where you can target your audience based on location, based on their interests, their age, or their profession. But a brand awareness campaign, you might be targeting specific sectors or types of decision makers. You might want to consider business news media or LinkedIn sponsored ad campaign. So really understanding who is our audience, who are we trying to reach, that's going to help you narrow down some of the ad platforms right from the beginning. And then this is the fun part, in my opinion, selecting your digital ad channels. So we like to break this down into 4 main categories. So you're probably all very familiar with Google. Most of us are familiar with paid search ads. We're going to go through a little bit more detail the Google Ad Network. Another category is local or trade media. Media publications offer digital advertising right within their own properties. So that's, you can buy direct. Social media advertising, that's a whole other realm in the ad space, which we'll talk about. And programmatic, that's another term that is really growing, and our agency is doing a lot more of that. So it's really a methodology for placing digital ads across lots of different websites and on streaming TV. So those are sort of the 4 main ways, channels for serving digital ads. I'll just go into Google a little bit. So are any of you here already running Google paid search or local search ads? So quite a few hands, yeah. So the Google Ad Network is, we could definitely have a session where we dive into that in way more detail. It's a pretty ever-changing advertising platform. They're constantly changing. They don't want us to fully understand their algorithm, but we do our best as marketers to learn the platform and serve ads. But basically, in a nutshell, you can run search ads, which are those text-based ads that come up when you're doing a search for something. It's that first 1 or 2 sponsored results before the local pack of ads. So you're basically wanting your ads to appear related to keywords that people are searching. And then you can run display ads on the Google Ad Network. And those could be a variety of different sizes. Google, a year or so ago, changed the methodology so that you can actually use responsive ads, where they sort of build the ads for you. And you can run video ads through YouTube. That's within the Google Ad environment. And then call-only ads, where on your mobile, you can actually, when the ad appears, tap to call. So again, we could really dig into Google in much more detail, and I can try to answer your questions at the end, but that's Google. And also, I can circulate a couple of resources that might be helpful through email. I'll ask Cindy to send it around. So the next is media outlets. You really can go to a media outlet. You could go to the Morning Sentinel. You could go to Masthead Media, or a trade association's publication, or the Wall Street Journal. You can certainly go direct to a publisher. And this is really this is sort of where digital advertising started, really. Before Google was a thing, you could buy banner ads. They were very simple, but that's really where it started. So the ways that media outlets are handling digital advertising has certainly evolved. But we definitely have clients who we recommend that they pursue digital advertising directly through that media partner. And so some of the ways that you can advertise would be sponsored content. Those are usually like articles that will say paid content. Native ads, which appear as an ad. Usually there's a headline that takes you to an article. You can run banner ads or animated display ads. Or even video ads. So a lot of our clients pursue display campaigns with Masthead Media. They allow geo-targeting. You can go direct to main biz. So this is really, one of the benefits to doing this opposed to Google is that you're guaranteed placements on that website. It's not just sort of a random offering based on keywords. It really is a guaranteed number of impressions, and you're usually buying those impressions for a month, but it's a set number of impressions that you're buying. And we have social media ads. This is, again, a whole other realm, but you can run advertising on pretty much any social network. So Facebook and Instagram, those are where people tend to start. They tend to be self-serve platforms. You can dive in and test it and try it yourself. but there's definitely an art and a science to it. But the others, Pinterest, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn. We have quite a few B2B clients who have done some sponsored content campaigns on LinkedIn to reach very targeted audiences. And some of the other social networking sites, like if you use Nextdoor, there's a lot of advertising there, Spotify, Reddit. So you can go to each of these social media platforms and run ads straight from there. And then programmatic, this is really the space that's, I think, changed the most in the last few years. This is really more of a methodology for using automated technology or software to buy and place a number of impressions of ads to targeted audiences. So this is really how, if you are doing some online research, you're going to a bunch of different websites, you're seeing display ads, or you're seeing pre-roll coming up. These really are typically ads that are placed through programmatic ad buying software. And we use a tool called Choosel. And there are a lot of different options out there. Some TV stations and radio stations have programmatic ad buying subscriptions that they use. So, and that was actually one of the reasons that we came up with this topic, is that a lot of us, especially marketers, we get calls and inquiries from lots of different providers who are here to help us run our advertising, but we don't necessarily know what's behind the scenes. How is this actually happening? So programmatic is just a way to run digital ads outside of the Google ad environment. So you're reaching other properties. You're basically buying a certain number of impressions, and the software uses third-party data to reach the audiences. So if you're looking for someone who's in market for a mortgage or a luxury vehicle, we use that targeting within the software to reach those people. Okay, so those are the ad platforms in a nutshell. Again, we could go into each of those in much more detail. So mapping out your campaign, now that we've gone over some of the platforms, you might be thinking back to a campaign that you've run in the past or something that you're getting ready to launch, or maybe you're thinking about trying this for the first time. So just a few things to consider before you select any channels to try. I want to take a minute and talk about the difference between a lead generation campaign and a brand awareness campaign. So lead generation is exactly as it sounds. You're running a campaign because you really want to engage with an audience. And yes, you want them to see your brand, but really you want them to click on it and engage with you. You want to capture their information so that you can keep in touch with them. You want to generate actual qualified leads. So that's something to really understand, going back to your why, because it's going to direct the rest of your campaign. Whereas brand awareness, yes, you want clicks, you want people to make it into your brand ecosystem, you want them to come to your website, but really you're doing it because you want your brand to be in front of them when they are conducting their day-to-day on their mobile or on their desktop, in their online environment, on social. You kind of want those disruption ads to be in front of them over a long period of time. So these are just some examples of a couple of lead gen ads. We're working with a fiber internet provider, and this campaign, it really is designed to get people to come to a landing page and enter their home or business address and find out if they're eligible to buy the fiber product. And you have to give your name and your address and your email address so that they can then keep in touch. So if fiber if it's available today, great. Customer service will get in touch with you and you can subscribe. If they're building it and it's coming soon, then they get fed into an email marketing program where they are served emails over a longer period of time to say, good news, Westbrook or Waterville, construction's happening, we're bringing fiber soon. So the whole idea with this campaign, and it's very heavy on geo-targeting. We use some geo-fencing to put a radius around the street address. In some cases, we can even target at the IP address level. But we're really trying to serve these ads to people who are eligible to buy this product, because there's nothing more frustrating than being served an ad and then reaching out to the provider and finding out, oh no, sorry, we're not coming to your area. So we're really trying to get hyper-targeted so that we have a lot of qualified leads. This is our client, Machias Savings Bank. This is a good example of a brand awareness campaign. So we've been working with them for a few years, and you may have seen some of this advertising last year, the Machias campaign. Basically, this is a brand awareness campaign. It's all about they really want their brand to be aligned with business banking and commercial lending. They want people to know that they are available to provide support in this area. They want to be aligned amongst other business banking options. So this was really designed, yes, we have a landing page. It's actually a microsite with a lot of what we call owned content. So they have a lot of video stories about their business banking relationships, and they do have a contact form. It's great if somebody makes it through this entire journey and fills out their information, but that's really not the goal of the campaign. The goal is to serve the impressions, to have the brand in front of this audience for a very long period of time. This is just the digital piece of it. They're also doing a lot of broadcast TV, radio, and print, so it's a full multimedia campaign, but the digital side of it is basically set up as a brand awareness campaign. So I just thought it might be helpful to see, in a nutshell, the differences between lead gen. And then, if you're an e-commerce, if you're a retail or e-commerce organization, then your ads are going to be, very lead gen focused, and you're really trying to engage and sell a specific product. So, okay, this is in the checklist, which might be helpful. Think about going back to your why, going back to your audience, and determining if your campaign is going to be lead gen or is it going to be brand awareness. And the other thing is, I showed you a couple of examples of landing pages, but you have to have a landing page. That's absolutely a necessity. My colleague Jay, who's a digital media buyer on our team, he likes to educate clients. You have to think about ad campaigns as reverse engineering. You're starting with that landing page and you're working backwards. So there's nothing worse than serving an ad and having a message that's compelling enough to get someone to click, and then they come to a landing page and it's disorienting or confusing and they just bounce off. It wasn't a good experience, and they're probably not going to return, or they didn't engage in the way that you wanted them to. So absolutely think about your landing page. And sometimes it's your homepage, especially if it's a brand awareness campaign. You just really need to be clear on what are your expectations. If you're collecting leads, you need to have a landing page with a funnel of some sort to get them to convert. And then the other advice I like to give people when you're thinking about getting started is start by testing a campaign on just one or two ad platforms. It gives you the opportunity to test one campaign against another, to see how it's going, to see what types of creative people are engaging with. And the other thing you'll need to get started is you're probably, unless you're doing just Google search campaigns, which you'll need ad copy, any of these other platforms, you're going to need some ad creative. So if you have a graphic designer or someone in-house who's responsible for that, that piece will need to be done before you can launch. I like to tell people you don't have to have a lot of ad sets. Having one or two ad concepts that are really well designed and consistent with your brand can be a good place to start. The other piece to talk about is setting a budget. And this is kind of tricky for a lot of advertisers. Digital is thought to be cheaper than broadcast and print. And in a lot of instances it is, especially depending upon the market. If you're in a much larger market, broadcast TV, especially if it's a seasonality where there's not a lot of inventory, TV is very expensive. So digital can be cheaper, but it's also, you don't want to go so low on your budget that you're not feeding the platforms enough money so that you're getting any results or any meaningful data. So setting a realistic budget and trying not to stretch it too thin. So keep in mind that too few impressions purchased might actually just be wasting your ad spend. So you can't make your budget too tight. One rule of thumb that we give clients is if you're just starting out, about $500 a month per platform is a starting point. If you're really doing this for lead gen, that might be a little bit too low, but any lower than that and you're probably not going to collect those leads. So that's just kind of a rule of thumb. And then designing your ad creative to fit the ad platform's tech requirements. That's really important. You don't want to design ads and videos that are huge file sizes. And one thing we've learned with animated ads is that I think you've got like 1.5 seconds or something for the user to actually pay attention to the ad. So if you're going to do an animated ad, which I'm a fan of animated ads because they catch your eye, quite frankly. But more than 2 frames, most of the time, people don't even see what's on the 3rd frame. So keeping it really simple, keeping it fast is important. And then setting up some sort of tracking. That's something to think about when you're mapping out your campaign. So for lead gen, again, if you really want to do lead gen, this is a piece that if you have a web developer on your team or a web team, there are conversion tracking pixels that can be placed on your website where basically, as the campaign runs, we can see where are people coming from, how are they engaging, what are they doing once they get to your website. If you're doing it for brand awareness, you could probably get away with just a UTM parameter, which you have to have Google Analytics set up. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but definitely set up Google Analytics. Even if you're not going to do digital advertising, do it. It's really helpful, and you'll need it anyway once you are running any kind of digital advertising. So set up some form of tracking, and then think about what's your plan for analyzing your results. Okay, so now how are we doing on time? Good, okay. So the next part is how are you going to implement this? So let's say you've made it through this whole process, you have this awesome ad campaign ready to go, you've got creative, you know you're going to be on a couple of platforms. How are you going to actually execute on this? So some of the options are to manage the digital ads in-house. Are any of our marketers managing this in-house? I see a couple of people nodding their heads. Okay, great. Yeah, awesome. So some of the benefits, it's cost effective. If you already have people on your team who have this skill set or who are interested in learning, and that's definitely a reason to pursue it in-house. It allows you to expand your knowledge and have a better understanding of what works best for you and your specific needs of your organization. And the Google Display Network and Facebook, Instagram, I would say those are the platforms that are the easiest to start from a DIY perspective. There's some good free tutorials online. And I would say if you're going to have someone in-house tackle this, start small. Start with a brand awareness campaign. Don't start with the most important lead gen campaign of all time that your business hinges on its success. Be realistic about what you're trying to accomplish and be patient with it. So that's just an option, is to tackle this in-house. You can work with an agency to have them develop your strategy and handle the media planning and the hands-on work. So agencies like Fluent and many others in this space, we have the subscription to programmatic software so that we can purchase from an inventory of ad space and basically set up the campaign for you, upload all of the creative, do all of the audience targeting and all of the reporting. And that's just one of the benefits of having an agency, is that we have access to some of the platforms that you might not want to subscribe to. And quite frankly, sometimes people just are not interested in learning this depth of this skill. So that's one of the benefits of engaging a marketing agency. With programmatic, we have the ability to get a little bit more granular with some of the targeting. So we can use geofencing. When I talked about that fiber internet client, IP address targeting, really dig into some of that geo-targeting methodology that might be a little bit on the advanced side. And then using an agency could be a good option for just increasing your brand visibility across multiple platforms. And the other is, I mentioned this before, you can work with a media outlet. There are some wonderful resources. There are radio stations, there are TV stations, there are newspapers. They often, you've probably had conversations, we might have some here in the room today, about how they can support you with this. So they would probably be using a combination of advertising on their own web property, but possibly also layering on some programmatic buys to serve your ads to websites outside of their domain. They might have the ability to set up and run Google and social. So a lot of media outlets have ventured into this space and function in a similar way that media buying agencies do. So the final part of this is thinking about tracking your success. And this can get kind of complex. My digital media buyers, Becky and Jay, are really the ones who live this day in and day out. But again, if you are wanting to run lead generation campaigns in particular, this piece is really, really important. So regardless of whether it's lead gen or brand awareness, definitely set up Google Analytics before any ads are live. And this is because it's going to, at minimum, show you where traffic is coming from, at minimum. So the next best is to use UTM codes. And there are free tools. So if you're attempting this on your own, you can actually use a tool, which I put the link in the handout, to build a UTM parameter. It's just a little piece of code that goes at the end of a URL, so that when you do go back to Google Analytics and look, it will track where traffic was coming from different ad campaigns. So that's really helpful if you're on more than one platform and you really want to have a sense of what's working and what's not. And then knowing what to look for. So, you'll want to look at click-through rates, you'll want to look at served impressions, your cost per click. This, again, is a whole realm that we could dig into in more detail, but on the Google search campaign side of things, the cost per click is highly dependent upon how competitive your space is and what other competitors are doing for advertising. So we try to refine our budgets based upon the ad platforms that are going to be the best fit. And then reviewing your performance analytics to determine how your campaigns are performing. That's an important part of an ad campaign. And really being ready to make adjustments. We like to call it test and learn, I always wish that clients gave this a little bit more time because often what happens is people they have a business goal they want to meet, and there's urgency behind it. And okay, we're gonna up the spend, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. It takes time to perfect this. There's a lot of experimentation and testing and learning and adjusting that goes into this work. So just be prepared to make adjustments. And I'm talking about the ad platforms themselves, how the campaigns are set up, is sometimes you have to adjust your landing page. Maybe your landing page just doesn't make sense. It's just not engaging. Sometimes you have to adjust the ad creative. We had a campaign running, we were really excited about it, and we figured out that there really shouldn't have been 3 frames of animation. People just weren't sticking around for that 3rd frame, which had the call to action button. So just tweaking like that is really important to make sure that you're taking the time and being open to making those adjustments. So I'm not going to bore you with this glossary of terms. I just want you to know that I, in this handout, typed out a bunch of definitions for you that if you're interested, and the reason I did this is because these are the top 3 most confusing terms, I think. Unless someone wants to share a confusing term that they have encountered, we find these to be the most confusing. Streaming TV versus connected TV. geo-targeting and geo-fencing, and remarketing and retargeting. And to me, and again, someone could probably prove me wrong, but I consider streaming TV to be like an umbrella term. So it's a way to serve ads to viewers and users of streaming TV content, and connected TV is the actual device that they're using to consume that program or entertainment. Geo-targeting, again, that's kind of an umbrella term for targeting audiences based on their geographic location, and geo-fencing is like drawing a radius around a location. So your ads are only served if they are within that exact location. Remarketing and retargeting. Remarketing is pretty broad. You could consider remarketing to be anything that you do to re-engage your audience. It could be email marketing, where you keep in touch with them, and retargeting. Those are basically ads that are served to someone who is already engaged with your brand. This is, probably there will be some questions about retargeting, but basically with the tracking pixels that I mentioned, you can set up ads, and a lot of the ads that we consume actually are retargeting ads. People love to hate them, but they do have their place. And you know, things are changing. Google is changing. They're very much changing their policies around privacy and around giving us as users and consumers of content more privacy, more choice. So retargeting ads, that's changing a little bit. And that's just another example of how this space is constantly changing. As soon as you think you've figured out how to do it, it changes, and we keep learning and going. But retargeting, you know, we have clients who are doing it, and it works. It's just being careful about the cadence of how often you put an ad in front of someone, what type of content, how long do they get that ad. You don't want people to feel spammed and fatigued by your brand. You want them to have a good feeling, and you want that retargeting ad to be encouraging them to re-engage with your brand and come back into what we call your ecosystem. So those are some of the terms. I will not read through all of this. They're in the handouts, but some of the things. And then, you know, when you're looking at metrics reports, so if you do this yourself, you can at least pull monthly reports. You can do it more than monthly if you want to out of Google Analytics. If you're working with an agency or a media outlet, they all have sort of different ways of providing reporting. But these are some of the things that you'll be looking at. Your CPM, your cost per thousand, your number of ad impressions served, your conversion rate. If you are doing a lead gen campaign, you'll definitely be looking at your conversion rate, which is basically looking at, you know, how many people clicked and how many people actually made it through that lead funnel. Your reach, and you'll be looking at tracking pixels and UTM codes and looking at performance based on those. So those are just some of the terms that you might see come up when you're presented with a report for how your ad campaign is running. So again, more terms. And that is what I have for you. Are we good on time for questions? Okay, I went through a lot. I know this is really, it's an enormous topic, it really is. So hopefully that was a good overview of how digital ads come together, and I'm happy to do my best to answer questions.
I don't have a question, but I'll give you a shout out. I'm Krista. A very loud person. I'm Krista from Snow Pond Center for the Arts, and we launched Snow Pond on Tap last year as our first annual Brew Fest with Kennewick Savings Bank. And we hired Marnie to get the word out. It launched unbelievably to the fact that this year we already have 22 breweries, 6 from out of state. Allagash called the other day and signed on. All the cabins are sold out. Tickets are selling, and we haven't even started talking about it. So
Wow.
I highly recommend your services.
Thank you. That was a really fun campaign, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but you know, we followed this process, and I think that as we got into it, we started to weed out ad platforms that just weren't working. Krista had done some radio advertising the year prior and for some other events for Snow Pond. And we did run radio as part of this campaign, so we thought, okay, let's try Spotify. And we, tried that for a while, and it just really didn't perform that well. I think for your location and for the type of event, local broadcast radio still definitely had its place when Spotify just, maybe the geographic location was a little too small. So, you build the plan with your strategy and with your audience in mind, and you measure it very carefully, and you pull budget. You turn off platforms that are not performing, basically. So I hope you don't mind me sharing that, but
You kicked up the ones that did. So
exactly, you kick up the ones that do. You Facebook, Instagram really worked well for that. We see that to be the case for a lot of clients that are hosting events or selling tickets. That's social media. People are sort of in that mindset when they're on Facebook or Instagram in particular. So yeah, that was a great project. I'm happy to hear that it's a success this year. That's great. Any other questions? Well, okay. Yeah, it is a lot of information. So if you think of any questions, my contact information is in that handout. My business cards are on the table. Happy to talk to you one-on-one just to answer some questions. But hopefully this was helpful because we definitely have lots of conversations with people who either don't know where to start or they've run a campaign and for whatever reason it felt like it wasn't successful. So yeah, here for you, here to help. And thank you for inviting me. It's good to be back in Central Maine for a little while. Thanks.
Thank you, Marnie. Actually, we have a parting gift for you. We have,
Thank you.
and please take a moment to fill out the evaluation form that's on your table.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're drawing some amazing door prizes now. Oh, yeah, you got it. That was a lot of information, but it is, I think to your point, marketing's always, it's very complicated and it's always changing, especially in the digital arena. So, yeah, hopefully people got a lot out of that. And Cindy's making her way with
Oh, wow.
probably okay, so let's get to that one first. Hi, Nana.
Thank you for sharing that.
Should we get that? Let's do that one first.
I understand now where
All right.
Okay.
Do you want to just get rid of that one first? I'll do
That's
that
awesome.
one. That way, okay. So we're going to jump to, that's the 10-gallon Marine Land Aquarium Kit at $99.99 value donated by our wonderful Fishtails Pet Emporium. Tanya Fawcett of Mid-Maine Homeless Shelter. And you know where to go to fill that up, right? They're right back there. bag and travel mug donated by Coldwell Banker Plord Real Estate. And that goes to Donald Avery from Sheridan Construction. Gifts keep on coming. We got a $10 Sailor Tea Cafe gift card donated by Sailor Tea Cafe. And that goes to Brent Dougal from DP Industries. Brent, there you go. I know. Well, here you go. A bubblegum bath bomb and facial soap donated by Valley Spring Essentials. Is this the one that Kim loves so much?
And that I hide because it's
Yeah.
a whole closet of them.
It's potent. All right, that goes to Natalie Corrigan of Maine General Health. All right, and our last one is a KFS Taste of Summer gift bag, including wine glasses, barbecue rub, gift certificates to the Waterville Farmers Market, and more. And that goes to, Nina from Maine General. All right, and last but not least, please be sure to contact the Chamber if your business would like to be on a business spotlighter here at one of our fabulous breakfasts, or participate in our weekly Chamber Chatter video presentations. I want to thank again Marnie for being here. Thank you all for being here, and have a great day.